Well, boys, glad to have you guys on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, y'all look so nice today. I want to compliment how nice you guys look.
Appreciate it.
That over there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, I just knew Chris was going to look nice, so I was like, man, I got to stay on his level.
That's what it is. Me and Chris have this argument all the time. I'm like, Chris, you don't need to dress up in suits. He's like, I gotta look good. I gotta look the part. You know, always trying to get him in a ball cap and hang out.
Well, that's my natural habitat. It's a ball cap, but
So
it is what it is.
I love it. Well, so guys, we're here at Ronnie Shuff's place, Shuff's Backyard Barbecue in Belton, Texas. They let us have the facility and kind of do the
beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Such an incredible place.
So good.
It's
And we need to grab some
I'm getting
food.
hungry.
We're gonna have to do that. Brandon Ryder is playing here next week, so we're going to do an interview with him, which I'm super excited about.
That's awesome.
But, man, that leads us into why you're here.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Chasing the deals.
I love it. Introduce yourself, bro.
Luke Truetken. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys want to know?
Oh, well, there's a bunch of questions.
We're gonna get into it. So I'm excited to have Luke on the show today on the podcast because this is a business podcast. We throw a lot of life lessons in there, which I'm sure we'll get into some of that today too. But Luke is I'm gonna just kind of try to lead you into some questioning that's gonna help you tell your story. Just a quick snippet before we jump in. Luke started his first business at the age of
15.
15.
So
okay. And by the age of 21, how much revenue were you doing?
We were doing over $1 million.
Over $1 million at the age of 21.
Just under 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, we sold it short at 1. Yeah, 1.5 million from 15 years old to 21 by himself.
It's amazing.
Okay, there was no mentors really involved. This dude YouTube, did his own research. I don't want to steal the story. So Luke, take us back. How did you get into? Well, tell us the name of your business that you started and sold since then. How did you get started? And take us through it, man.
Yeah, so man, the company I just sold was Luke's Landscape and Maintenance. Original, right?
We love branding.
It was great. I mean, when you're 15, you don't really think about these things about, hey, what happens. But I think that was the beauty of it. Where I didn't really, when I started, I didn't really think about where it could go. And so I think so many people get so stuck on, I'm going to build this big thing, and then they get so stuck on all of this massive goal that they never start. And so I'm really blessed that the way that this thing started was my parents, sat me down when I was 15. I'm like, all right, so a car. And they're like, what you gonna do about it? And that was the biggest blessing that my parents could have given me right there was, we're not gonna buy you this. You can go out there and if you want your own vehicle, you gotta go get it.
So that was your first why?
Yeah, that was the first goal.
Every 15-year-old boy's
I mean, that's like a 12-year-old.
It was the freedom because they said, well, look, you can use our vehicle, but it's on our schedule. And I was like, dude, it's not going to work, man. And not to mention the one that was going to be more available was a minivan. So, no 15-year-old wants to be cruising around in a minivan, right? So I had too many nicknames for that. But so that was the first thing. So I started looking around in the market going, man, what am I going to do? And the first thing I did was okay, so Craigslist. $8,000.
I love how you use the word market because at 15 you weren't thinking of the market.
Right.
You're like, man, how can I get this?
It was literally, how can I get this much money so I can buy this thing?
Yeah.
And so everything that I wanted, Dallas, Texas, a little suburb, not little anymore, but McKinney, up north of Dallas, I was always kind of like the, farm guy. I wanted to be a cowboy. I was like the city cowboy, and so I wanted a truck. What else do you want in Texas, right?
Yeah, that's Texas.
So I'm looking around. That's nice.
That's international.
But the freedom comes from the truck. So I'm looking around. It's like $8,000, and I'm like starting to do the math. 725 is everybody that I'd gone around like, hey, what are you gonna pay me if I come work here? It's like, well, some 25, and I'm like, dude, okay, so I got school, and now I'm making 725. This is gonna take forever. So I start looking around in the market about how can I make more money faster in a smaller period of time, because my time is so limited right now with school, and lawn care kind of fell into my lap. My parents
Yeah.
always had me working. I was working on a ranch growing up, so they taught me the values of hard work, and I was always mowing their yard. And so one day, I'm out there mowing, and my neighbor comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, you know, I've got a guy that's currently mowing my yard and 6 other houses here in the neighborhood, and they're, you know, he's going to college. They're going to disappear. So we're going to give them to you if you want them." And I was like, man, you know, like this, I don't know. Just thought about it for a day, came back to him, was like, dude, I'll take it. So 2 weeks, I worked for this guy for 2 weeks for free, and that was my payment for the 6 houses. And 2 weeks later, here I am. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I got 6 houses, like, my parents loaned me.
No truck at this
No,
point?
nothing.
No truck.
Nothing.
So
Like,
this
I
is where
just
the
said
story
yes.
gets awesome.
I just said yes.
way.
And I didn't really think about how this was going to work,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't have any
And
equipment.
okay.
I didn't have any real knowledge besides what I was
Wait,
doing.
I don't know that I knew this. So you had 6 yards given to you, but you didn't own a mower?
Dude, I didn't have any of that stuff. But I had this. My parents we just moved a few years earlier from a bigger house and with a bigger property. So they had a riding lawnmower that had been sitting in the shed for 4 years, completely dead. I was like, dude, this thing's gonna be my like Batmobile. Take that thing out. I'm like rigging this thing up. I took the pulley off so that it would go, and put a different pulley on so it would go like 15, 20 mile an hour. Went and got a little cart from a friend. He was like, here, like, I'm gonna support the cause. Like, here's this little cart to pull behind the mower. My parents loaned me their lawn equipment that I'd been using to mow their house, you know, forever. And so that was it. Like,
But you posted a picture of that the other day.
yeah, it's on my Instagram.
Of you with
That
the
was,
car.
that was that picture you showed
That was
me
the,
before.
that was the cart.
Man.
Yeah, we gotta post that in the
We
comments.
did. We
yeah,
did.
yeah. So one thing led to another. Within a couple months, I had another riding lawnmower. That thing really became my beast. I painted it.
But how did you get to the houses?
So I would put everything on this cart.
Okay.
I would get on the mower and I would drive down the streets to the next house.
Love
The
it.
mower that you changed the pulleys so it would go faster.
so it would go
enough to get
faster. It was 5 mile an
How
hour
did you
was
know
my
how?
max
Okay,
speed.
hold on. You're 50,
YouTube.
You're okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I mean, I know the answer to this, but I'm thinking, like, how do you use YouTube to figure out how to make your lawnmower
Yeah.
go faster to
Yeah.
make you more efficient?
I needed to know. I was like, man, this is taking so much time. I only have so much time that I can mow these houses. I need to get there quicker.
So I want to pause for a second because I'm guilty of this. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you I'm guilty of this. You know, we give young people and millennials a hard time.
Oh
We
man.
give them a hard time. In a lot of cases, it's justified. But you come across people like Luke, and you go, okay, this kid didn't get it handed to him.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't get his truck handed to him. His parents could have. They probably could have given you a vehicle, right? But they had the wherewithal to ask you, hey,
Yeah.
if you want it, how are you going to make it happen?
Yeah.
And
That
then,
was the biggest blessing they
But they
could have given me.
supported you in it, right?
Yeah,
They supported
100%.
you in it. They didn't say,
100%.
oh, you know, I don't want my sweet baby riding out on the street in his lawnmower. He's going to get.
There was those concerns,
Yeah.
but they 100% supported it.
Yeah. Okay, carry on.
Yeah,
Just had to say that because I
That's a really good point.
We do beat up on millennials a lot, but there are a lot of them out there that, and even younger. There are young people today that are willing to work hard, that are willing to put it in, that are willing to go out and find the answers themselves. They're actually really resourceful.
Yeah.
If they've spent a lot of time online, they know how to go figure this stuff out. And turning your lawnmower into your
The
vehicle.
information's out there. You just gotta
It
go
is,
find it.
man.
And so
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of questions that I want to ask you. One, I just love the hustle and the drive. But at what point did you really believe that this was a business?
when I bought the truck,
Once you
Well,
get
we're
your
getting
first
there.
go.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah.
So how much money? So you got a second lawnmower, painted it. That's where we were.
got
How
the second
far is this
lawnmower
down the road?
That I got the accounts in August, and by the end of that season, so
You got the end of the season.
yeah, end of the season. By the end of the season, I was up to 10 houses just by people. How many other people do you see riding around on a lawnmower?
Yeah.
My muffler.
You wanna support
the
that?
muffler fell off, so it sounded like a Harley. Here, side note, but I got to share this story. There was one time I was going down the road, and there was these roofing guys, right? They heard me coming probably 3 streets over, and as soon as I came into view, they all stopped what they were doing, came to the edge of the house, and were like sitting with their legs over the edge of the house, and they were just watching me drive by and laughing and pointing in videos, and it was a scene. I just laughed and waved. I had my big sombrero and like a bunch of stuff,
Who's
but
laughing now, though?
me.
We'll get into the end of that here in a little bit, but
So by that spring, I was like, man, this is going pretty good. I want to try to continue to grow this, and so I was gifted another trailer, which was even bigger. I could put a little bit more equipment on that, and I wasn't quite to my goal of being able to pay for a truck yet. So I was also kind of sort of gifted / bartered for another mower. The second one that I was talking about that I painted up and was even stronger and was even faster and had a little better brakes because lawnmowers aren't meant to go 20 mile an hour, so you gotta get a little sketchy there. But so then by really that summer I was able to buy the truck, and it was just, you know, by that point it was just working Saturday. Only day of the week that I was doing, I was running cross country, playing a lot of soccer, a lot of school. It was, you know, a busy life, so I only had time on Saturday to mow. And then I got that truck that following summer, and that was when life changed.
Yeah.
Because I was restricted to such a small area.
That's awesome. I'm gonna reset my camera. Go ahead.
So, but that was actually a blessing too, because that taught me the lesson of density and the need to stay really tight. Because I was on this mower and because I only had so much space to go, it really reaffirmed the mindset of like you can't go everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, the only way to make money in this business is to stay really dense. So
Why? I guess because you had to be there. I see a lot of lawn care business. We talk to them. They got 5 in this town and 8
biggest
in this
mistake
town.
you can make.
Yeah.
Chasing your tail all the time.
Yeah.
Chasing your tail all the time. Biggest mistake you can ever make is going too wide, too fast. I could have been a lot bigger of a company, but it would have been a really terrible company if I was in. We were doing 553 houses a week when I sold in just the city of McKinney.
Okay.
And
I'm sure we're gonna get to that because I got some questions about that as well. But so your first key factor in all this was keeping everything in this area because you wouldn't allow to.
Yeah.
You're
Do you think that because you were starting small and you had a core group of clients in one area was that just accidental that you happened to keep everything close together because you just
No, it was pure necessity that I couldn't drive. I had to really look at my time
So
because
your
it took
restraint
so
forced you
long.
into
It took
what
so
became a
long.
strength.
Yeah, it took so long to go to house that I had to look at it and go, okay, if I can get 5 houses on one street, that saves me the extra 10 minutes that I'm going to take to drive to the next street over.
Yeah.
So it was pure necessity of like, I have only so much time in the day. How do I do it more efficiently?
What do you tell somebody now that's starting a lawn care company? Because when there's talks, me and Chris are thinking about purchasing a lawn care company. So first step is obviously narrow your search, correct?
Yeah, be really dense. It's going to slow your growth a little bit in the beginning, but you will it will blow you up later. Mm-hmm. You will completely change the game.
So there's any of you lawn care guys, there's the first step.
There's so many more reasons than that. We could spend a whole session just talking about why you need to stay dense.
I just figured little topics that you come along, we can get that out.
Yeah. We maybe talk about that at the end for a second because there really is some really good information about why you need to stay really dense versus going really wide.
So what I'm still amazed by, okay, so you've got at this point 3 mowers or 2?
2 riding lawnmowers. The one just kind of became my like 4-wheeler. The first one, it was my play toy. And the second one was my go around. That was the thing I needed to make sure.
And it was you and
just me.
Just you at this point. And how many lawns were you doing by yourself?
By the time I bought the truck, it was probably 20.
20 by yourself on Saturday?
It was, all that was, it was a Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Friday afternoon I would get done with school, I would literally go get the trailer, and I would go mow, and then till dark, and then Saturday morning I would be up at 6:30 in the morning, I'd be mowing till dark.
So the crux of all business owners and what you figured out how to do, I think relatively well, especially at your age, is grow.
Yeah.
And add employees. How did you do that?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was.
How many employees did you sell the company with?
16.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
21 years old, 16 employees.
That's crazy.
Yep. There's so many life lessons with that too.
Yeah. Oh man, you're a baby. Me and Chris both own companies as well as you do, so you know that you're not only a father, a brother, a sister, a mother,
everything.
You're a dad,
you're everything.
A babysitter,
a leader,
a financial advisor.
So who's your first employee? How did you get them?
Again, it's so funny how many lessons you learn just by. If I could go back and do this over, I could grow this thing to the same point in a year and a half.
Yeah.
But it's because I had to learn everything the hard way.
Yeah.
This is common sense is not that common, and I definitely didn't
It's
have a
an
lot of
oxymoron.
common sense in a lot of things. Hired a guy that was my first 2 employees were part-time. Both of them were part-time. They were both high school buddies.
And buddies.
Bad mistake, but
Everyone does it.
everybody who does it comes back saying the same thing. I
Yeah.
wonder why everybody says that, but yet we do it anyway.
And it's always our first employees. Or
It always is.
It's like, buddy, come on, I got some work for you. I need this done anyways. No,
We get along so well. This is gonna go so great.
it's not going.
It tanks every time. So what happened was the first one, you know, we're out there mowing by senior year. It wasn't until senior year where I picked up a buddy. So from freshman to junior year, I was mowing up to about 60 houses a week. By that point, it was literally every day after school. I was getting in the
What
truck,
kind of revenue are you bringing in?
just under 100,000.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
talking annually.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Senior year is when I started making 6 figures, and
How crazy is that to be senior, bro?
people
high
laughed
school-
at me. They didn't really realize what was going on, but I was kind of internally laughing.
Okay, I love it. Because I remember my senior year, I was like, damn, if I could just make $2,000, you know? 'Cause I didn't think about
Yeah.
how many ways there
Yeah.
was to make money, and
Right.
so that's so awesome of you.
Right, and so by senior year, I have these 2 part-time guys, and what I didn't one of them, this was just kind of a side gig, and then he eventually left through that summer, and then it was just me and this other high school friend, and the thought occurred in my mind in the middle of the summer that, look, he's younger than me. What's he gonna do? What am I gonna do when at this point, it's 100 yards a week is full time. That's all we were doing through the summer.
You and one guy.
Me and one guy, banging it every single day.
7 days a week?
5 to 6 days a week.
Okay.
5 days is what we were mowing. We were mowing 100 yards a week in 5 days, and then the 6th day was trimming and all the other stuff. But the thought occurred to me in the middle of summer, like, well, what are you gonna do when he goes back to school? This is a full-time gig. You'll figure it out later. The day came when he went back to school, and I had to figure it out later.
Oh, man.
And so here I am, pulling my hair out. I'm like crying, breaking down, like, oh my gosh, mental stress of like, I have 100 houses.
And you're what? How old?
18.
18.
And I'm like, I have 100 houses. I have no idea about employees. Everybody that I've been through is like friends of mine. So I just call them up and say, hey, come mow.
Are you paying your buddy cash at this point, or are you actually doing the business as a business?
Nope. All just making it work. Like I had no idea
It's
what
the
I was
worst,
doing.
isn't it?
It's an absolute nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
There was
But
no
that's the easy route at that
organization.
time.
That was the easy route.
It's always the easy route.
Yep.
Even I know 50-year-old guys that run their business the same way. That it's just an easy route. I'll
Yep.
just pay this guy cash.
Yep.
Now
Hurt
they'll
me.
Grief,
Hurt me
man,
long term.
Learning all this
Hurt me
stuff.
long term.
Learning all this stuff before 22 is, I mean,
yeah.
invaluable.
Invaluable.
Sometimes, like, that's a good point, but sometimes I get really frustrated with myself because I'm like, I could be so much further. You know?
are.
You
But
you
like,
are.
sometimes,
dude.
you know, I have to
Don't be
remind myself. like,
Watch one of
Yeah.
our last podcasts. We talked about not beating yourself up too much.
Yeah,
Don't
I need
beat
to watch
yourself
that.
up.
You
are
need to watch
further.
that. So, that's when I had to get real serious and started calling people that were above my position that had employees and going, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like I need advice about how to hire, and that was hell.
Is this where is this where your
brutal.
relationship with Scott came in, or no? Not
No,
yet?
it's still. I was talking to a buddy of mine, Bill Mertz. He owned a car repair company, so he had 10, 15 employees, and we're talking about it. And I would find a couple more people that I would just say, hey, here's my struggle. What are you doing? And so I also went to YouTube and started looking at like
Isn't it so
how
crazy
do you
how much information?
there's so much information and hiring and firing and like what do you need to do, and so it's just like you have to get known. Like you have to become like you have to advertise just as much for employees as you do for clients, and so that's when everything changed for me. Is when I started like I had to beat the pavement. I went through probably 10 guys in a week. So like somebody
You
didn't
were
work.
learning those little
and-
traits that you knew instantly.
There were these working interviews or something that you
Yeah,
went
kind
through?
of.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know any better.
Come try it for a day.
Come
and
try
I'll-
it, and
tell
like
you
it was
to
like, nope,
pound
you're
sand
out.
or
Like
come back.
within an hour, I'd be like, dude, I'm gonna take you back. Here's some money. Thanks for coming in and helping me. Like here's $100. Like but sorry.
Well,
And then
that's-
like the next guy'd be like, dude, can you come right now? Like I need you. And so like 10 guys in a week, I was pulling my hair out. By the end of the week, I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like I have clients that are like, hey, what's going on? Like you're not finishing the route. And I put this, it was 10:30 at night on a Thursday night. Friday was my biggest day of the week. And I put this post out on Facebook and I'm like, hey, write a paragraph. And I get a text message 5 minutes later and I said, hey, my brother's interested in this position. Can he start tomorrow? And I was like, come on, here's where you start, be there, like let's go, I'll figure it out. And that was my dude that stuck with me. He's still with the company now.
Oh wow.
And
So you just never know. Leverage
never
social
know.
media to do it.
Leverage social
Pretty awesome.
media. You gotta. One of the ways that we really started. So there's another story. So that I went through the rest of that season with Chris, and then the following spring I hired 2 more guys. And this is one of the big life lessons that I learned was you can't become the person that you're supposed to become or the leader or anything until you take full responsibility for everything that's going on in your life.
Self-aware.
Self-aware, like, and so it actually wasn't until 2 years ago
We had a
that
podcast on extreme ownership a while.
extreme ownership.
Yeah, self-aware.
That is so many people find, and this was me. I kept pulling my hair out going, why am I having so many problems with employees? And I would blame, like, it would be because of this reason, or, I would find that problem in the employee, and it wasn't until I realized that it was because of my lack of leadership and my accountability to myself and me going, wait, this isn't them, this is me.
But you didn't have any life lessons, and I get it, but you didn't have any knowledge of how to control that person.
Yeah,
or that
well,
situation.
it was the extreme. It was the extreme of so my next 2 employees, it went terribly wrong. I burned them up. I turned them I was a horrible boss, and I didn't know what it was and to run employees. And so and within 3 months, I ran them into the ground. And one Monday morning, they just texted me. We were supposed to be at the shop at 7. They texted me at 6:50 and said, hey, we're no longer coming in. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day. And these guys were in charge of mowing 75 to 100 houses. This was my second crew. Second crew at this point. So I'm running one crew, and Chris is running another crew, and I have 1 employee, and he has 1 employee. And so the 2 of us are mowing about 150 to 200 houses a week. And these
going hard.
Hard. It was. I mean, this is
So what
this
was
is
a,
the
what
middle
was a
of
typical
June.
day for you? When did you start? From the time you showed up to get your equipment loaded and get going, when did you start and when did you finish?
Depending on the time of the year, we either started at 6:30 or 7, and then we were going till.
And that you started by that's when you showed up.
That's
not
when we
started
were
mowing.
That's when we were. By the middle of summer, we were on our first property by 7 o'clock.
Okay, and
Yep.
you were off at.
We got it by the last 2 years. We got it so figured out that we were off by a lot of the maintenance crews. The guys that were out mowing, they were off by 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, they had.
And
we
how
had it
many did
so
those guys do a week?
systematized.
2-man
Every-
crew for you.
All of our crews were 3-man,
Uh-huh.
and they were doing 125 to 130, 140 houses a week.
A week. Would that have been possible had you not been concentrated?
No.
No.
To get them off by 2 o'clock, which was a big incentive for them to come work for me, was that they could be off before the heat of the day,
Yeah.
or they would finish their route and then they would have the ability to go do overtime and
That's
start
5
making
days?
5 days a week. Yep. And then there was some guys that worked 6 days. They wanted to make the overtime. We had the extra work to let them do overtime.
When
On
did you
Saturday.
decide to go 3-man instead of 2-man crews?
We
What
just
made that decision?
we because of the density, because of the fact that we had 3 to 7 houses on the street, I needed the ability to go through houses a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And
So was one guy always lagging behind, kind of doing
so
stuff?
we would show up. We would show up on a street. Everybody would unload. One guy would be the crew leader. Was typically the guy going around doing all the string trimming, edging, and then 2 guys were on mowers. One guy would go mow the front yard. One guy would go mow the backyard, and that's what they would do all day long. It would not get changed up or anything like that. They would go. They would have either the back or the front, and that was what they were in charge of. So they would go down the street, and they would know that they were in charge of that thing, and then the crew manager or crew leader would be the guy weed eating, string trimming, the detail work. He would get typically he would get done first. he would go back up to the truck, get on a blower, start blowing everything off. The next guy would come back up to the truck. By then, typically the guy mowing the backyards are a little bit smaller, so he would get done first. He would go back up, get a blower.
So your
blow.
process mattered.
The process, the systems totally matter.
I guess where I'm going, where I started out with this line of questioning is, as the business owner, your day started when?
Oh, my day started at 5:36.
5:36, and your day ended when?
Never. It didn't.
So
I got done long enough
This
to
is
like
18 or 19?
18, 19.
18, 19. What are most people doing 18, 19?
Partying,
It was hard.
Yeah.
I had so many of my friends coming to me all the time going, hey, let's go do something Friday night.
And you got a little bit of money. So like some of your friends don't have money at this age. I didn't have any money, but people still hung out with me. You're making a little bit of money,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So you're like, hey, you can get the beer.
People don't do that under 21. Come on. Hey.
I mean, you don't have to
Even like let's talk about like special events, right, in life, right? You've got family reunion, you've got graduation. Well, obviously,
I missed all that until I started having employees.
Wow. So you missed prom?
Employee?
You missed?
No, I still, well, yes and no. I made some of those, but there was a lot of stuff that I missed out when it was me and one other guy. 100%. My family would go off on vacation and I couldn't.
So this is just a little off topic, but it's a question I've been wanting to ask you.
Sure.
Obviously, I know your answer to this is, if you could do it all over again, would you? And I think
Heck
with
yeah.
what you learned, yes. But is there a part of you that feels like some of your childhood that you just can't get back? Or is that
Yes.
what you wanted?
I would never go back and change it. I would never change the way that my life's played out to right now. But yes, I definitely missed out on things in my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what you're saying is you feel like for you, even if you could go back, you would still choose this path.
Yeah.
Right on.
It set me free.
Yeah.
Like, it's been an incredible journey. I've met some incredible people. I've had some amazing people, like, talk to, and because of this journey, and made some incredible relationships out of this that I would never go back and change it.
Yeah.
But I definitely missed out on stuff in my life because of this journey.
Yeah. Well, so at this point, you're at 2 crews.
2 crews?
300 yards?
Yeah, between 200 and 300 yards. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep,
What happens next?
That's when I started looking at what I did with Chris and building him to a crew. So I started trying to look at the guy that I was running with and saying, okay, like the next season, you're going to take over this crew. So it was constantly building. What I did with Chris was I found Chris in August until the end of the season. I was constantly pouring into the vision of him of going, look, by next season, this is your baby. Like, you're going to run this, you're going to get a pay increase, this is going to be you're going to be manning this ship.
Did you incentivize him based off of production, or did you incentivize him just as a flat number?
At that point, it was just,
I'm going to give you X amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we changed the pay structure later, being the production, meaning that like when you got done, if you got done early and you could go do more stuff, then we were like, dude, like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I forget where we're going with this question. So no.
Next step of growth.
Yeah. So the next step of growth was the hardest part for me was finding somebody that was gonna be accountable and take care of the crew and take care of my clients and all that stuff. So it was constantly like finding the next person. So we ended up finding the next guy to run the 3rd crew from Chris. Chris had been running with him. He'd been showing him. So by the next season, I said, look, Daniel, I told him in December when we were wrapping up the season, I said, look, by next season, dude, you're going to be running a truck. And he's like, okay, let's go.
Are clients still pouring in at this time? Are you actively advertising?
Yeah, so up until senior year, I had done everything by word of mouth, everything by straight hustle, knocking on doors, giving referrals. I joined a networking meeting by that point, my senior year, and that's where it was. And so actually one of the guys in my networking group grabbed me and was like, okay, and I was telling people where I was going. By that point, by senior year, I knew that I was gonna go to community college and I was going to grow this thing. Like by that point, it was a goal of like, I'm gonna build a big company. Mm-hmm. And so he grabbed me, he was like, dude, the only way you're gonna build and be able to get there as quickly as you wanna go is by getting on the web, by getting your social presence done. And that's what changed my world was the end of senior year, he built a website, and then we started immediately doing SEO. And SEO, you know, is a process, so I didn't get any results or anything out of that until about 8 months to a year later.
Not to cut you short, it's what you do now for a living.
It's what I do now. Yeah, it's 100% what I do. That changed my game. So it took 8 months to a year before I really started to see any type of payoff. But
Hold on. How long?
8 months to a year, and that's actually on
Chris is saying this because I deal with a lot of clients.
long-term investment. He sold me for a year. It took him a year to close me. A year to close me being in this group, and then I just
After he closed you 3 months in and nothing's happening, what was your feeling as a business?
He had already spent that whole time. Actually, I had no regrets. I had no drawbacks at that point. He had spent that whole year closing me, and at this point I was diving into YouTube videos about how to build companies, and everybody was saying the same thing. And so I was like, this is the way that it is. It's gonna take some time.
Your web stuff was purely SEO. You weren't doing social media at that point.
At that point, it was purely SEO. I did get into Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that later on, more Facebook than Instagram, but at that point it was still that. So, but once that got going, we shut everything else off. Like it was like the website brought in so much business that that I wanted to at times shut it off.
What did you do on your website that was really the most powerful?
Story.
Okay.
The whole thing on this whole growth was I found the story early on, and I told the story of why I was doing this.
Yeah.
So when I found my first clients, when I grew that company from 6 to 10 that first season, I was telling people why I was doing it. They were like, "Hey, why are you out here mowing grass at 15?" Well, Mrs. Johnson, I'm trying to pay for my first truck. Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. People want to get behind it, man.
Hey, Jimmy, your yard looks great, man, but you're gonna trust come trust this 15-year-old to scalp and make your yard look like crap because he's buying a truck. So people are like, oh.
I mean, I would support that. That's my support.
And so I bought the truck, and the next goal was college.
Yeah.
So that was the next story that I was telling people. So look, I'm out here, I'm gonna pay my way through college. So this company's going to do that, and this is why you're going to support me. It's like I'm here. I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to give you the best quality of service that anybody else is going to. And my why for what I'm doing this is I'm going to pay for college. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was, hey, I'm going to build a really good company.
And he did provide that level of quality and service. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ever met Michael, our founder.
Yeah. By that point, it was really a hard deep dive into customer service. Why do people? Lawn care is the easiest company to get into. You just need a mower and a truck. Your barrier of entry is so low. So you have to figure out a way to separate yourself from 50,000 providers in one city.
Yeah.
And so that was when I started asking questions to clients when they started calling me from the website, that's when some of the branding and the marketing really started to hit home for me. Was I started asking the question, why are you calling me today? Why?
So huge.
And it was, my current providers always left the gate open, and my dog gets out, and I'm afraid of him getting run over.
I didn't even think about things like that.
Feedback.
And feedback, you knew how to handle that particular client.
Well, and I started putting together a list of why people were shopping the market, because obviously you're not going to shop the market if you're happy with where you're at.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
They're not calling you because door hangers. You're out there trying to call you. If they're calling you from the website, they're in the market for you, right? And that was why I loved. That's why I loved the website. That was the biggest thing. It was so easy to close clients because they were literally looking for me.
Yeah.
They were calling me saying, "Hey, where do I sign
on your website? Did you have a opt-in page?"
Yes.
Okay.
We had an opt-in page, and we told the story. My website didn't have before and after pictures. It didn't have a whole bunch of people get so stuck in this, here's why I work. Well, a lot of companies do good work.
Yeah.
But what's the benefit for the client? My story was on there, why I'm building this, and then what's in it for you. We're always going to show up on the biggest things people complained about were gates. And my lawn guy didn't show up today. He always shows up on Tuesdays. He's not here. I don't know what's going on. He didn't answer his phone. He never bills me on time.
Well, most business owners are so overwhelmed that they can't handle all that from one person's stand.
And so I discovered that at a really early stage in the company. So I was able to change that. So Mrs. Johnson, we're always going to shut your gate. We're always going to make sure that your gates are shut before we leave. We're going to double check that. It's important to us that your dog doesn't get out.
And so how did you follow through with that though? Because it's easy to
Training
say
the guys.
that. Did you have like did you guys have a checklist?
Every day, guys, we're not going to leave gates open.
Yeah.
Like
You just hammered it.
I hammered
so hard.
it so hard every day before they left the shop. Guys, what are we going to do today? Not leave gate open.
It was part of your
We're
process.
not, yeah, it was part of the process. Just as much of the process of who's mowing the front, who's mowing the back, and who's weed eating and trimming and everything. The process
It's almost
of
like you make
how do
the
we
guy
lead
in the
the client.
backyard. That's part of your job. When
If you
leave
come
the
through a
backyard.
gate, there was no propping gates open. We realized really quick that if you prop a gate open, it's
You
really
forget
easy
about
to
it.
come back through and you forget. We do not prop gates open. You go through a gate,
I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Right.
you go through a gate, you shut that gate behind you because you might go in on the left gate thinking that, John, when he goes through the blow, is going to come through the left gate, but he goes through the right gate. And so he thought you closed, and so there's just so much confusion there. If you do not have a process, something's going to get left open, and then the dog's going to get out, it's going to get run over, it's going to be a big problem. And bad publicity and all of that stuff. So you have to build those systems in place, and that's what changed the game. And same thing with invoicing. I got enough people saying, my guy never invoices me on time. I get a bill 6 months later and it's $700.
Because they just waited.
They never send me an invoice. I'm sending them a check and I don't even know if I'm paid up. So we found software that took care of that tracked all of our billing. And we eventually changed it. I found out really quick how big cash flow is involved. That's another, I don't want to get sidetracked on that, but that was another thing that we fixed was we invoiced clients on the weekly basis. We told them, hey, put a card on file. We're going to charge your card every week. It's going to be a small amount. You're going to get an invoice when we charge your card, and it's going to be billed every week. Same day, every week, systematized. It's boom bang. You can expect it.
And to relate, a lot of people instead, they're just like, well, I'll just take a cash payment. You just shut that off.
I shut all that down. It became to the point where we really did not want a client that wasn't going to give us a card.
But what did that matter 2 years after you did that?
Cash flow. Every week we were charging cards, and the money, I would bill on Monday, and the money was in my account before payroll.
So then you can afford payment.
Overnight, my cash flow problem was solved.
So what would you say then to the small business owners that there are tools out there available?
There are so many tools out
and
there.
they look at it and they go, I can't afford
so
X amount
easily.
of money.
Like,
You
okay,
can't
let me
afford
ask you a
not
question.
to.
Let me ask you a question.
Right?
You can't afford
This
it.
is what changed my world is when somebody asked me this, and so let me ask you this question: is how much is it costing you not to invoice on time?
Yeah,
How
you
much?
lose clients.
Like I went to the end of this 1 year and I had $10,000 in collections because I wasn't invoicing on time. I wasn't staying on top of here's the problem with invoicing at the end of the month. You go 5 or 6 cuts, and then you realize the client's not going to pay you.
Yeah.
You're 5 or 6 cuts in.
And what is your time worth, really, as a business owner? The fact that you don't have to go home and worry about billing, man, you can go home and that is, that's taken care of.
Wouldn't you have loved to have known that client wasn't going to pay you after one time of their card declining?
Some expenses are lifestyle expenses, right?
Those expenses are not expenses. It's money saved in your pocket.
Yeah.
Everybody gets so stuck on oh my gosh, they're going to charge me 0.05% to bill a card. Dude, how much are you spending in collection? How much money is rolling over in collections every year?
A lot.
And time, time is something you can't buy.
Yeah. Just think about if you knew that a client wasn't going to pay you, because it happens. There are people that cheat the system.
Oh, yeah.
In lawn care, it's the common practice is bill at the end of the month. So you have these people that go out there and they'll hire a lawn care company, and they hire a lawn care company every month, and they never pay them.
Yeah.
And so that was a client that I could have immediately cut off and hired a new client, and they would have been paying me. So
Did you do that? Did it one missed payment? They were out.
So yes.
So if their card
It wasn't that they were
expired-
out. We set the system, the process up that my assistant would call that person. The next day I knew their card declined. So they're already, it's a week before we're going to service them again. So she would
They got a chance to
spend
fix
Tuesday or Wednesday, we would automatically send them an email. Mrs. Johnson, we know there's so many different things that can happen. We just wanted to let you know that your card declined. We know that it could be 5 different reasons. Unfortunately though, we're going to put your account on pause just until we get this fixed. As soon as you update your card information, we're going to put you back on the schedule. And then we would send that email on Tuesday. Wednesday, she would call the clients. and then we would fix that.
But the ones that really weren't they were gonna pay you anyways, would call and be like, oh, I've got a new credit card.
They would call me right away. Hey, I just got my new card on.
Exactly.
Here's the new
The
card.
ones that aren't gonna pay you weren't gonna call you.
Didn't answer the phone.
Yep.
Didn't respond to emails. You would call them, and we would get some people that would go, hey, this is Luke. Click.
With 300 yards, how many does he have?
Hey, I'm so sorry. I've got something going on right now. I can't talk right now. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. 10 days would go by. You wouldn't hear from them. What's going on? Dude, they're not calling you back, bro.
They're not. You already know.
So that's the kind of stuff that, like, you got to set those systems in place. And
I think a lot of people instead, though, they're just trying to take on so much work because they're like, I need money. They're not building a business.
Yeah.
They're trying to take income but not build a company.
you got to go long term. What's the long term game versus
That's
the
what we were
short
talking
term?
about earlier. 5 years, bro. 5-10 years. Like, that's the game you're
But
playing.
at some point he transitioned to that because he didn't start to build a business.
No, I did not start to
He
build-
started to buy a truck.
And that's where I kind of start with people a lot of times is like, have that big goal, but what's the small goal that gets you started? Because if you're looking at this thing going, man, this is a 50,000 foot jump, like, you're
Seems
just
like
never
too
gonna,
much.
it's actually 3 feet, but it looks way far,
Yeah.
all you gotta do is like start, and so,
I'm just, no, we're good. We are at a restaurant. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I hear chairs moving back there. I'm like the whole crowd's gonna come running in.
So at the end, Luke,
Yeah.
you ended up with how many employees?
16 employees,
16 employees. You had how many lawns?
553 houses a week.
You were doing not just lawns, you were doing custom landscaping installs.
Custom landscape installation. We had some commercial accounts. We had our city built a $54 million stadium. We won that account. Yeah, that was a big deal to have our
That's
trucks
cool,
parked
yeah.
out in front of that account.
And he had trucks that looked like that M. They were bright green.
branding, baby. All other lawn care companies, I don't know why they're all white trucks.
I don't know.
But that's
we
a
were talking
mobile
about,
billboard.
We were talking about that
Mobile
earlier.
billboard.
Why aren't they just bright and loud and
Yeah.
It's every time you show up in front of somebody's house, sometimes you get some crazy stories. I had a client called me and said, Luke, your guys did a terrible job. They just cut half of my yard and left. And I'm like, what? I look up the account. It's one of my veteran crew leaders. He's never done this in the past. Now I'm an investigator. I'm like, dude, what's going on? Like, this is weird. He has security cameras. He calls me back 30 minutes later and he goes, no, I call him back and I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Like, and I call Daniel. I'm like, Daniel, where you at? And he's like, I'm not even to that house yet. So that's when the light bulb kind of came on. Somebody else's crew showed up to the house, got the house number wrong, started mowing the house, realized they mowed the wrong house,
to work for you.
picked up and left. And so I call him and I say, hey, what's the color of the truck? Oh, it's white. Well, sir, all of our trucks are lime green. What's the shirt? Guys wearing the custom company shirts? No, they're all in different shirts. Sure, all of our guys are in company shirts. 2 minutes later, Daniel shows up, mows the whole yard, makes it look nice, cleans it up.
Yeah.
But he wasn't even there to the route yet. But that's so important is the branding of like, when you pull up in front of somebody's house or on a street, it's like there's Luke. Like that's Luke's guys. They're clean. They have shirts. They have a nice truck. It's lime green. So many people thought that I had like 20 trucks because they kept seeing the one truck driving around lime
Because
green.
they see it.
Yeah,
Because
they
they
see
see
it all the
it. They know it.
Yeah.
People
That's
are
so
like,
funny you
I'd
say
get
that.
clients that would call me and go, I see your trucks everywhere. Well, it was really, they were only seeing 6 trucks.
So at the end, Luke, why did you? What was part of your decision-making process to say, all right, this chapter's over?
I wasn't pushing myself anymore. I'd gotten stagnant. I'd been in such a period of growth through my life that like I was constantly growing, and so I just kind of gotten happy with where I was and kind of complacent. And it took car accident happening in front of me and some of that kind of stuff to make me realize like, if I go today, am I happy? And the answer for me was no. And so
I think more people should ask that one question.
yeah, I would never want anybody to go through that experience. But what I saw that day was really crazy. But I actually do kind of wish that people would go through that experience, and the fact that they would ask that question of like, am I happy with where I am right now? And I tell you, most people would probably say no.
And what about the situation where you're not happy?
Not happy with financials. I'm talking about with the people in your life. Like, are you happy with your relationships? Have you called the people that you love? There was a lot of people at that point that had helped me along the way that I never said thank you. And a lot of times, like, that was one of the things that went through my mind was like, do I want people saying, like, do I want to be saying stuff to people at the funeral? Or do I want people saying stuff to me at my funeral? Like, that's no. Like, I don't want to do that. So that was when my world changed of, like, I need to spend a little bit more time on Luke. And I'm not happy with where I am, you know, like, growing as a person. And I'm not happy with where I am in my relationships. And I'm not, like, that was the big change. And I was ready for the next thing. Like, I'd built the landscape company as big as I thought that I could, and it just wasn't enough of a challenge anymore. And my dream was like to go big, and that wasn't big for me. And so I was just ready for the next step of, like, you know, I'm not comfortable with where I am. Like, the biggest thing that I can change to make myself uncomfortable is sell the company and go into something completely different.
Yeah. So how did that, just really quickly, how did that all go down? How did you?
MDR, baby, Michael Rubin, all those guys. You know, MDR and Associates guys. Those guys are on.
I love how proud he is to hit that name, bro. I love it.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I came on with the company, Luke's deal was the first deal that I was involved in, and I got to know Luke through the process and was just blown away, obviously, by him and what I was seeing someone at his age do, and then got to see, you know, when we brought Ron in and he took over. And you had a good friend, a competitor, which could be a whole nother podcast about why it's good to create allies with your competitors.
You gotta create allies with your competitors. They're not competitors. There's so much business
You
out
guys
there.
were in the same city.
Same city. We were
Exclusively.
best friends. We'd call each other every week. Hey, Mrs. Johnson switched. We'd laugh about the problem or whatever. Hey man, I just got Jack. Tell me about Jack, man. Like,
So Michael, you're doing an install for Michael Rubin, our founder.
2 years
MDR.
ago. Yep.
You guys had hours and hours of
goddamn
conversations on his porch, talking about faith, life, because
Yep.
that's what Mike does.
Yep.
He just loves on people.
Yep.
And next thing you know, Luke's talking with us.
2 years later,
Sold your company in
30 days.
30 days. Called your best friend, hey, this can really happen. Scott Mainzer, who now works for MDR and Associates.
Oh, no,
He's
such a
he
crazy
is,
story.
He is our Denver office.
So crazy.
He sells his company with us, like,
I
almost
wasn't
immediately.
supposed to like really say that like I had sold the company yet, but I just couldn't help myself with Scott. I just said, like, Scott, because we were so close to friends, I was like, Scott, you're not gonna believe what I did. And he's like, what'd you do? I was like, I sold the company. And he's like, what? I didn't even think that was possible. Like, I didn't know you could actually sell companies. So like the whole story with him, and like it was the right time for him, and then the whole deal, like that both companies were bought by the same person. Like,
Yeah, the same guy bought them both, merged them together.
Oh wow.
how does that happen?
Now, I want to touch on a lesson that was learned, right? We've talked about this, right? Scott ended up getting a little bit more for the amount of yards he had. Why was that?
Clean books.
Clean books.
You gotta have clean books. Like so many people get stuck in like, oh, I'm gonna pay, you know, the IRS, blah 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 blah, and they go, you know, through all this stuff. Like, look, you actually want to have a good amount of money paid to the IRS every year because it shows that you're making money, and you can't lie to the IRS. You know, like you need to have that tax return, and look, you're gonna pay now or you're gonna pay later.
Buyers don't pay for what you say you have; they pay
Yeah.
for what you can prove.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so that's why it's so important to have clean books. It's so important to make sure everything's, all the eyes.
But you
eyes are
got
dotted.
less money because your books weren't clean.
They weren't 100% clean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you have more lawns? Is there?
Yeah, we were about the same.
Yeah.
He had fertilization weed control. We didn't quite have that in the books yet. And fertilization weed control is a very profitable business within lawn care. But that played a part into it. But
The interesting part too is that, and I just want the business owners out there to hear this, is that the buyer even understood
yeah,
that you had this additional revenue. He believed you.
Yep.
You could just about nearly prove it.
I could prove it, but
But-
because it wasn't there.
But because it wasn't
They
there,
went for
you
less
can't
than Scott.
expect someone to pay for it.
Yep.
And that's, actually funny that you're here talking about this because I just posted a video, a tip video. I think you saw it.
I saw it. I loved it. It was so true. I shared it.
Make sure your taxes match your P&Ls. Get your books clean because that's like the first question we ask once we get past the trivialities is like, all right, do your P&Ls match your taxes?
Think about the long game. Again, think about the long-term strategy. It's so easy to think about here and now and what's going to happen today and tomorrow and this year, but what's 5 years from now look like?
Yeah.
What you do right now is going to affect you in 5 years.
And I will say this to encourage anybody that's like, oh crap, I'm not doing that.
Get it
only
clean.
takes 2 years, man.
Yeah.
18 months.
Get it clean right now. Get a good accountant. Get everything
cleaned up.
sorted out.
That's one of those costs that's worth every bit of it is having a good accountant.
An accountant is not a cost. It's a savings.
That's right.
They make you money.
They do.
Yeah, that's the fact when you're in business or doing business.